Thank you for the kind invitation to come here and talk about Pannovation. And the first picture, do I get it? That's på datorn. Okay. Okay. Pannovation, the word is an acronym. The first part stands for pre-approval not needed. And you understand the relationship to innovation. And this concept focuses and stresses the possibility to start innovative projects based on your own decisions, your own intentions, your own visions, and also in many instances complete such projects. And this is also possible for people not being part of formal or traditional organizations. There are increasing opportunities for this today, extending and in many cases. But before going into it, I will talk about not the old innovation landscape, but the innovation landscape of today, a quick overview. The innovation landscape of today is very rich, diverse and dynamic. Educational level is generally high. Knowledge is everywhere, distributed, decentralized, accessible. Internet, of course, has a central and monumental importance here. All the information that is searchable, findable, accessible on the internet. And in particular, the possibility to exchange and share information, collaborate across borders in time and distance on the internet. Support, capital, advice can be sought and potentially obtained from many sources in society, both private and public. The attitudes are very much in favor of innovation today. The successful entrepreneur is respected, admired, and serves as a role model for many. If you do a search on the word combination do it yourself, I think you will find millions of hits on the internet. And tools that used to be reserved for professionals because the tools were expensive and required years of training to master are today available at a reasonable cost, fairly easy to handle. CAD, 3D software, word, image processing, writing of code, digital photography, music production. The type of innovations spans over a very wide range, many of them addressing the upper levels of famous hierarchy of needs of Maslow. Many innovations are intended to provide experiences, enable people to do what they need and want to do. They often relate to social functions, impact, feelings. Many are complex mixes of technology, products, and services. Think about a mobile phone, not only for making telephone calls. Think about a computer or a digital camera. A digital camera today, still photos, videos, sound recording, GPS, sometimes a projector, wireless sharing of images and so forth. And innovations are often parts of complex ecosystems. We heard about the city. And not least the complicated ecosystem of daily life. They should fit into the puzzle of daily life. And the combinations, the mix of different elements may be the innovation per se, just mixing existing elements. Access is often more important than owning things. Streaming videos, streaming music, carpools, renting options, a new business model emphasizes access rather than ownership. And some people, like me, I rather prefer access than ownership. I mean, tons of stuff piling up. This is a very open and rich collaborative landscape. Many have described it with concepts such as open innovation, crowdsourcing, user-driven innovation, long tail and so forth. And I encourage every one of you to listen to talks and read the books and articles by Henry Chesborough, Eric von Hippel, Clay Shirky, Chris Anderson, Jeff Howe, Stephen Johnson, Kevin Kelly, James Surviecki, and many others. And I apologize for any sin of omission. It's kind of impossible to avoid here. So it's a very rich landscape. The opportunities are out there. Back to Pannovation. Today, yes, there are opportunities to start projects and complete them yourself. But it's not everywhere. It's not ubiquitous. It's not ever present. There are some instances and they're increasing, but why is it not always so? Well, because there are gatekeeping functions and structures and filters. And gatekeeping functions, they have existed throughout history, in all aspects of society. They exist today, and they will exist tomorrow. And gatekeepers tend to guard a resource of limited supplier amount. Think about the space available in a newspaper magazine or the capacity of a TV and movie producing company. Gatekeepers also tend to restrict variation, even at the early stages of idea development. When a proposal should be evaluated, it should be in a kind of predefined format. And gatekeepers tend to uphold the existing rather than promoting the new. Csikszentmihalyi presented the systems model of creativity. And the model describes various domains, such as architecture, engineering, mathematics, art, music, many different. And within those domains, which comprises sets of symbolic rules and procedures and established knowledge within that domain, people contribute ideas. And a field of gatekeepers within the domain will then evaluate and decide whether the ideas should be acknowledged as valuable contributions, genuinely creative, let into the domain, and eventually affect and change it. A few examples. In the old days, if you wanted to publish a book, you had to submit a manuscript to a publishing house. An editor would then hopefully read it and recommend whether to publish or reject it. And typically the decision was not to publish, considering the huge number of manuscripts. That means that the decision was not yours any longer. Today, if you want to publish a book, go ahead, do it. Use print on demand. Lulu.com or similar companies. If you need help with services such as editing, proofreading, layout, distribution, you can often buy those services. And there are actually other ways to get your book out, even you can distribute it over the net. The same applies to music. If you can't afford an expensive studio or don't have access to it, or all the instruments that you need, do it in digital format. Very much can be done, and you can distribute it also in digital format, reaching your listeners. If you want to design T-shirt, check out Zazzle.com, Spreadshirt.com, Redbubble.com, and similar sites. Very much can be done. And even concrete objects can be done based on more or less your own decisions today. You design in a CAD program your innovation. You specify different features and functions, and then let a specialized plant produce it or manufacture it in a small batch manufacturing. You don't need to have you building your own factory. Why is it important to talk about Pannovation? Why is it important to talk about the possibility to start and often complete innovation projects on your own? Well, because more ideas will be realized. Ideas that wouldn't otherwise be realized can be realized, leading to more ideas, more building blocks, more possible combinations for further innovation. And I would argue that the end result, when people develop ideas on their own, decisions, ambitions, visions, will be different than if the very same ideas would be developed in the linear, standardized, sequential, controlled, gated processes that are typical of many organizations. And this very much relates to a concept which I call the gate-free space. What is the gate-free space? The gate-free space is the space in which ideas can dwell and roam before hitting hard points of evaluation, criteria, and the stop-go decisions. In that space, ideas can evolve, improve, mature, become more robust, combine with other ideas, find new applications, and acquire new features and functions and usages. And if people mainly risk their own time and effort, they can experiment with leeway and latitude. They can try different approaches, tools, methods with autonomy. That means diversity. And if experiments are not 100% successful, well, that's lessons learned and insights gained. Very different than in organizations where experiments are expensive and well planned and should give expected results. And if profit or ownership is not the primary goal, it's also possible to share experiences and knowledge with peers in networks and communities. Why? What's the use of considering the concept of Pannovation? Well, I will point to three main aspects. The first one is that the structure of gatekeeping, functions, roles, and filters, it could be thought about as kind of a geography or a topographical map with high mountains and hills and narrow gaps, but on the other hand, also valleys and canyon and riverbeds. And the new, for this is a framework for detecting and spotting where the new emerges. The new tend to emerge where the resistance is not too strong, the hurdles are not too high, or the gates not too narrow. And charting this geography and plotting where the possibilities to do things based on your own decisions, ambitions, and visions, where they tend to aggregate and become many, is a way of spotting where the new emerges, which is kind of a holy grail in many contexts. The second aspect is that the geography isn't constant. It changes, like the face of the earth. Mountains may erode. Roadblocks may crumble and fade. Gateways may open up. New tracks may lead past the castle with the drawbridge, and eventually the main road may go elsewhere, leaving the castle of little interest. And understanding what causes this change, why is it possible today if it wasn't possible yesterday? Is it due to changes in legislation, for example, deregulation or regulations? Is it due to changes in demographic, financial, educational factors? Is it due to changes in opinion, trends, fashion? Or is it due to technology? And if so, through what mechanism has technology made changes? Is it because it allows people to do or enable people to do what they want to do and help communication, collaboration, and so forth? And collaboration is important. I want to stress that. Pannovation is not about doing things on your own. It is about deciding, but you should, of course, collaborate. I mean, that's very effective. The last point I would emphasize is that this is a way also to consider, evaluate, and compare the attractiveness of environments. People with talent and ideas, which environment do they choose to work in? The open landscape, where they can realize ideas, or informal organizations, which has advantages? I will not try to answer that question. I would just say that this issue is very important. This question is very important, and it will not be less important tomorrow in the future. This conference is about the tolerant city. And tolerance is appropriate here, because that gate-free stretch before ideas hit hard points of evaluation criteria and decision points, where ideas can roam and dwell and mature and become better. It depends on tolerance, trust, and willingness to provide some resource, usually not much, with less control than usual. And it's a win-win deal. People want to realize their ideas. They want to see their ideas put into good use, people benefiting from them. And those on the receiving end, wanting and needing ideas, they have an easier task to spot the quality, value, and beauty of a flower in full bloom, rather than trying to evaluate the seed or very, very tiny sprout. So I encourage every organization, every city, every region to encourage trying to implement and maintain this gate-free space and really benefit from it. And I think that people should also take the opportunity to start and drive innovation projects on their own.